Hi everyone, Side here. As you can see, I've changed my background a little bit, so I've changed the location of my desk, the placement of my desk a little bit. Because at work I have to turn my camera on for some meetings, so have to make sure I have proper light and this is the place for it. But anyway, since last week I've been going out for walks, and actually just earlier I'm working from home today. And I went out. Half of my lunch break I spent out there, walking, because the weather was actually pretty nice. There's one day when I didn't go because it was raining and I didn't have the proper shoes for rainy weather. However, now I have no more excuses because I got new good shoes. They're pretty damn amazing. But anyway, I've managed to lose 1 kilogram of weight, by the way. That is not really the main topic of this video. So this week I wanted to tell you guys about an incident that happened in a town of Kuhmoinen. I'll try to include the name of the town as a text in this video, as well as a picture of the map, so you get an idea of where in Finland this town is. And yeah, I want to tell you guys about how the Weapons Museum in Kuhmoinen was broken into twice this summer. And I want to go through a little bit of the history of the museum, basic info about it, and then what we know about the first break-in at this time. Somebody got caught, I know that much, and I don't think they've been, tried in court or anything yet, let alone sentenced. And then I want to tell you guys about the second break-in, which by the way happened in broad daylight. Genius is there. But anyway, that's basically what I want to share with you guys in this week's video. So without further ado, let's get started with the basic info about the museum. Okay, so here's the map, and as you can see, Helsinki is right over there, and then I live there, and then Kuhmoinen is here. And it's a municipality that used to be part of Central Finland region before, but in 2021 it became part of Pirkanmaa region instead. And it's actually not, they don't call themselves Weapons Museum, it's Gun and War Museum, which I guess it's a more better translation of the place in Finnish. And it was founded in 2000, and it's one of the largest privately owned gun museums in Finland. All items in the museum are collected, refurbished, and owned by an individual who has done a remarkable job preserving a part of Finland's history. It is not supported by the state or other institutions. It has a massive collection of over 3,000 weapons, medals, swords, helmets, bayonets, and lots of other material connected with war, especially the Second World War. The oldest showpieces are from the 18th century. In a separate area, there is a collection of both old and new hunting weapons. There's also a library of war history that includes more than 2,000 books as well as newspapers. Pretty interesting, huh? I did not know some of these things. Okay, so let's go. Military guns. One of the rare guns is a Swedish rifle called Jarman. I'm pronouncing that wrong. It was constructed in the 19th century and only 1,052 pieces were ever made. Also, the Finnish Alberg pistol is a rare gun, only 1,000 pieces ever made. And I pronounced Alberg wrong too, but that's okay. In the picture you can see the Alberg pistol, and when you take the cursor over the picture you can see a picture of the rifles. When you take it, Oh, like that, okay. Okay, all the military weapons were constructed before the year 1945, and the oldest ones dating from the 18th century. The collection includes rifles, light machine guns, submachine guns, and few modern assault rifles for comparison. The collection totals over 400 guns, 202 of which are on display. All right, then hunting guns. Okay. There's a gunsmith's workshop on the right here. The collection of hunting guns is composed of hunting rifles, shotguns, pistols, and revolvers. The whole collection contains 150 hunting guns, and about 80 of them are shown in the museum. The oldest ones are from the 18th century. All right. Then we have some swords. You can find more than 130 different kinds of swords and knives in the museum, but the whole collection includes more than 500 of them. Wow. The oldest ones are from the 18th century and the youngest from 1945. There are 80 bayonets, 20 swords, and over 20 knives on exhibit. All right. And then there's some military outfits, more than 100 different military outfits. 20 from World War II are on display. They include not only Finnish, but Russian and German armors as well. And 40 helmets. Then there's some literature. They have their own library. And there's hundreds of wartime newspapers. And the oldest books are from the 19th century. All the books are available to the visitors. And there's equipment. The collection includes over 4,000 items of equipment used in the World War II, 2,000 of which are exhibit. Okay, there's some grammar errors on this website, but that's okay. The items on exhibit change periodically. I pronounced that wrong, but that's also okay. On the right, on the left, okay, here, there's boots that have been used for protection of gas and vapor. Okay. And although they were very common in wartime, there are not many still in existence. Okay, so this is a quick rundown of what you can see on their website, and there's some links, so the colors. But anyway, when is it open? Okay, but in my knowledge, it is not currently open for visitors because of the breakings and the investigations into those. But anyway, that was just to give you a short idea of what's this place, what's it about. And I'm gonna try and see if I could find a picture of it. Maybe I'll have it as a thumbnail, like how it looks from the outside. Okay, so here's some pictures, and you can't read Finnish probably, but there's some, above the pictures are some related searches, like from the Pirkanmaa court, and that the motive was the death, and yeah, and then the, breakings to this place. But you can see how it looks from the outside. It is basically like, whenever I visited Kuhmoinen, is this old building that looks a little ramshackle, I guess you could call it. No offense to the owner, but it just looks very old. Well, not necessarily old, but like, and not untidy, but just, okay, maybe I'll just call it old. Maybe that's the easiest way to put it. And yeah. Anyways, now let's move on with the actual story. So that was the basic information about the Gun and Military Museum, and showed its location. It's a really small town, really beautiful, really peaceful, small. You know, nothing ever happens there. Remember this in a bit. But anyway, so I found some articles about this on Yle, which is basically our version of BBC, so public broadcasting company. And the article is thankfully in English, like I am capable of translating, but this saves so much of my own time. So what happened was that in early July, somebody broke in to the Gun and Military Museum in Kuhmoinen. They managed to steal 34 handguns. And then soon after, apparently, the same person tried to break into the museum again, just 3 days later after the first theft. But I think back then they didn't really get anything, maybe a bottle of alcohol or something, but by what I'm reading through this article, they didn't, manage to steal anything more. And the stolen weapons included nagants, revolvers, Lahti pistols, and Colt handguns. There we go. Police said at the time that none of the guns were loaded with ammunition when they were stolen, but they were still functional and could be fired once you find the right ammunition for them. And remember when I mentioned that nothing ever happens in Kuhmoinen, that it's a beautiful, small place, nothing ever happens there? Well, apparently the owner of the museum didn't really have any security in the place. Because, in Finland we have a lot of trust for each other, even during these times of the world. But especially in small towns. And yeah, so again, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think it was mentioned at least in the Finnish articles, and I heard my mom talking about it too, and she lives in Kuhmoinen with stepdad, and they've actually known Kuhmoinen for many years, and that's why I know Kuhmoinen, because they've had a cottage there for over a decade. But yeah, nobody, even if you're a Finn, do you know Kuhmoinen? Have you ever heard about it before this incident happened? So, yeah, apparently they didn't have any security, and then 34 handguns were stolen. And by what I was reading, one handgun has been recovered, but the remaining 33 are still missing. And it's believed that they've been spread to other people and sold forward or something. However, police was able to apprehend a suspect, and the suspect is 49-year-old fella, and he has a long criminal record, including for previous theft and firearms offenses, and that he has confessed to the museum break-in to authorities. So there you go. Okay, so there's really not much more about that. So let's soon talk about the second break-in. And I immediately have to correct myself. So since that article was basically from the start of July, they have actually managed to recover more than one weapon, but this article is from August 29, and they say that 26 functional weapons, handguns, are still missing. And they fear that these weapons are being spread to other criminals and, possibly used in criminal activity in the future. And unfortunately, I didn't manage to find an article in English about this case, about the second break-in. So I'm gonna read the Finnish article that I found and gonna do my best to, you know, translate as we go. So they suspect that there's at least 10 people involved in this whole case. And on 28th of August, the second break-in, the big break-in, happened. And the police was called to the place around 2 p.m. and several patrols were sent to the scene because when they received the information about the break-in happening, they were told that the culprits were loading long-barreled weapons into their vehicle. And the owner who had shown up to the situation had gotten beaten down, and when the culprits were leaving, they also hit a fire truck that was approaching the scene. And there was a huge buzz around the town, of course, because, you know, like I said earlier in the beginning of this video, this happened in broad daylight. There's a grocery store right next to the museum and a gas station. Then I think there's a small coffee and arts shop opposite, like that kind of stuff, you know. And people were going on about their daily business in Kuhmoinen when this stuff started happening. And the owner had, after the previous breaking, the owner had locked up the place. And in my knowledge, they also had improved their security. You know, anything after having nothing is an improvement. I'm not trying to diss the owner, like, kudos to you for trusting people for this long, but I'm also glad that he's now taken the steps to do something. The specifics of the security have not been published, which is fair. However, the place had been fenced, you know, and the gates to the place was closed, and these guys were just trying to, you know, cut their way through, I guess, in my understanding. And my stepfather was in town when this was happening, and he informed my mom, who informed me that this was happening. And she was like, you know, there's lots of police in the place, and you know, fire trucks, and there's drones. And then they started having this chase of these culprits, and they drove all the way to Kangasala, which is a town where I used to live. I'm not gonna show it in the map, but I think it's an hour drive, less than an hour drive from Kuhmoinen towards Tampere, which you could see in the map on the first parts of this video. And the car, by the way, had been stolen, you know, from East Uusimaa. And these guys actually managed to get 7 more long-barreled firearms, and I'll need to do some translating for that. Mustaruuti. Let's see. Mustaruuti. I think that's black powder. Englanniksi. Black powder. Okay, yeah, so black powder weapons. And what else was there? Oh, this is the wrong article. Hold on. There we go. Had to Google what lupavapaa is in, you know, like I can translate it directly, but I had to make sure what is the official translation. And that is license-free. So these weapons, these 7 weapons that were stolen at the end of August, were black powder weapons, and they were considered license-free. which confuses me because in Finland, you know, if you know anything about Finnish firearms regulation, it is pretty damn tight. I can speak. And there's a lot of regulation about it, and I don't see anything about weapons. I mean, I guess they could be considered license-free because, you know, they're such old weapons that it should be considered difficult at the least to find proper ammunition for them. So maybe that's why they're considered license-free. And in addition to, you know, breaking and entering, stealing firearms, beating up, or I read somewhere that they possibly tried to drive over the owner of the museum and then they hit the fire truck and then they were escaping the police. All of these included, they also were arrested for driving under the influence. And of course, you know, putting road safety in danger. You know, right now I don't remember the right term for that, but anyway, you get the idea, I hope. Let's see. So yeah, the investigation into this is still ongoing, and a lot of people are suspected of hiding these weapons and selling them forward, possibly selling them forward. But yeah, this has really been a fascinating case because, you know, in Finland, weapons they're not that common unless you're like a hunter or a collector, and you don't go showing them around the way you can do in many states in America. And, you know, firearm related attacks and incidents are relatively rare. We have had, I think, was it 1 or 2 school shootings? 2 at least. And then we've had some knives incidents and a sword. I think that was in Lappeenranta. But, you know, weapons are still pretty rare because, like I said, we have tight regulation for these things. But anyway, I thought that would be interesting to share. I might do an update on this case once we know more. Some of the people who have been suspected being involved in this have been born around 1990, 1995. The one was in 1985. But yeah, the oldest involved, I guess, is the 40-year-old man who was involved in the first. And all of these people might have a connection, and it is also suspected that there's a motive, and that motive is money. So somebody is in debt to someone else, so they tried to steal these weapons to sell them forward to get money to pay off their debt, but that is still speculation. Don't know for sure. But yeah, people have been apprehended. Investigation is still ongoing on, and I might do an update on this if there's more information. But I thought I'd like to share this story, this incident, because, you know, it's news from Finland, and like I said, nothing ever really happens in Kuhmoinen, and I have a personal tie to that place. So yeah, hopefully you found this video interesting, and I hope I got all the facts right. Like I said, I was reading from the article. First I had the English article from Yle, and now I did some quick translation from the Finnish article, and then we looked at the Gun in Military Museum website. And I can put some links, share some links with you all in the description if you want to take a look for these things yourself. Anyways, hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next week.